Hey everybody. Today we're talking about cross-references in R and Quarto. Here we're in a situation where we're writing a document and we've included an image or a plot or a table or something that we then want to refer to later, a cross-reference. I'm starting by working in an HTML document. I've already pulled up a basic one that I've started. Although, as we'll see later, the exact format that you're using doesn't particularly matter when you're doing cross-references. They work the same in Quarto regardless of HTML versus PDF versus kind of whatever. I've also put in a basic setup chunk. I've labeled it setup. I've put include false because I don't think my readers need to see it here. And I've loaded up tidyverse because I'm going to do a plot in a little bit, as well as GT because I'm going to do a table in a little bit. Okay, so the first thing I might want to cross-reference is an image. So I'm going to put in an image right now and then, well, refer to it. To put in an image in Quarto, you use an exclamation point because it's exciting. And then in a bracket, you put your caption. So I won't really put one in right now, I guess. I'll just put the word caption. And then in a parenthesis, you put the file path. Now, I'm working in an RStudio project, which I highly recommend. So my Quarto document and the image file that I'm going to use are both in the same working directory. They're both in my project folder. So in this case, it's rustylogo.png. I don't need any more file path than that. And that's this sort of chi-squared colored histogram that you might have seen on my channel occasionally. It's just a little homemade thing I did 2 or 3 years ago. I know I need to up my branding game. I'll get to that eventually. So there it is. I can add properties to this or make specific changes to the way this image is displayed by putting additional arguments in a brace. So for instance, I could put width equals, I don't know, how about 60%? We'll make it a little bit less wide. Okay, great. So I want to label this so that I can refer to it later. Let me say that more explicitly. In order to do a cross-reference, I need 2 things. I need to label the thing that I want to refer to, and then later I have to actually refer back to it. So the labels work with hashtags in Quarto. So hash fig dash, I don't know, how about logo? So the hash is letting Quarto know that I'm putting in a label here, and then this prefix fig dash lets Quarto know sort of what kind of thing is being referenced. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that really matters in just a few minutes. All right, now adding the hash fig dash logo won't actually change the way things render yet because I haven't referred to this. So let's actually put in the reference. We do that by adding it. So at fig dash logo. Let's render that, see how it looks. I'm working in HTML here. So when it says figure 1, I can mouse over it and get a preview, and I can click on it, and it'll take me back to the actual image. Notice that Quarto is doing some numbering for me. So when in a minute or two, I'll have a second plot, a second image, and it will say figure 2. If I move them around, the figure numbering will be fixed for me automatically. If I want to refer to something multiple times, no problem at all. All right, I think I'm going to take out the word caption. That's not so helpful here. How about my logo? And we can reformat how this appears, how this cross-reference appears. So, for instance, I might be writing for a journal that doesn't want the word figure, just wants the number 1. Or they might have something more specific in their style manual, so FIG or something else. So, first of all, let's take out the word figure that we have here. So in a bracket, I'm going to enclose this. And then I can just put in sort of additional options. So if I put a minus sign before it, that's going to take out the word figure. This is a really common thing in some journals. They don't have the word figure or a reference or whatever. They just have the number. Or maybe I'll just copy and paste here. Let's do something customized. So instead of the minus sign, I'll just put the word I want. So I don't know, how about figgy? I don't know. And now instead of figure, I have the word figgy. So Figgy one. And of course, this is still something you can mouse over to get the preview and click on to get right back to it. Lovely. Let's do a ggplot, or really any kind of plot. So the main thing here is I need a label if I'm going to want to refer to this later. So let's put in a label. There we go. And if I weren't referring to this, if I were just being lazy, I might have called it like msleep, because I'm going to do a plot using the msleep data set. But since I'm going to want to refer to it as a figure, I need fig-msleep. So now later when I refer to it with @fig-msleep, it's going to keep the same numbering that I had for this figure. Okay, I'm actually going to use the qplot command. I've been in some online conversations about qplot lately, which I defend even though it's been deprecated by Posit. And qplot is just a quick plot. And so you don't need to, while it will allow you to use the grammar of graphics, you can also just sort of pass it your x and your y variables. So let's get a histogram. Let's do msleep $sleep total. And that's all I want. Let's go ahead and put in the reference while we're at it. @fig-msleep. And see how that looks when I render it. It won't look perfect, but it'll be okay for a start. All right, so plots, figure 2, reference figure 2, great. All right, so I think before I move on, I'm going to get rid of these warnings. Yes, I know qplot was deprecated. No, I don't use qplot when I'm doing things that have to be a little bit more elaborate. I just find it helpful when I'm just kind of making rough plots. I'm going to go ahead and take out that warning, and then I'm going to make this a little less wide. So warning, false. And how about out-width? I don't know, 60%? I don't think I need quotes there. Let's find out. Yeah, there we go. Came out looking okay. So reference to figure 2. Lovely. I think the next thing is a table, right? Frequently you'll include a table in a professional report and then need to refer back to it later because it includes important information. So to start, let's get a new code chunk where we actually make a GT table. Now, of course, Quarto does have native support for tables. If you go to the visual editor, you can insert a table. But I think the GT package is a really nice way to go. You can get some beautiful tables using some syntax that's, I think, fairly transparent, all things considered. I'm going to do a whole video on GT tables pretty soon. So first, let's get a label. And this time, we don't want our thing to be labeled as a figure. It's not going to be. It's a table. So how about TBL? And then, I don't know, msleep. I'm going to do another table involving msleep. And you'll see in a minute I need another comment here or another argument, but I'll get to that in a minute. I want to do my table first. So let's do msleep, and let's pipe it into a group by. I want to group it by vor. The msleep dataset has lots of different animals, herbivores, omnivores, insectivores, etc. And then it gives us information about how much they sleep. So I'm going to group it by vor, and then I'll do a quick summarize. I want to know how many of each kind we have. So count n parenthesis parenthesis. Nice little helper verb. Thank you, dplyr. And how about average sleep is the mean of sleep total. And na.rm equals true. And then I'm just going to pipe that into GT. See how that looks. I render really often just to make sure things are going as intended. If I made a mistake, either a syntax error or just not getting something that I want, I like to find it as soon as possible. It makes the troubleshooting process a lot faster. Okay, so it's a decent looking table, obviously. I'm not sure about these NAs in here. I probably want to get those out or handle them some way or another. And the syntax here isn't really the greatest. I could also use a title. I'm also not sure that my reader really needs to see this code. Hey, by the way, the NAs and the msleep dataset are really informative, I think. I'm going to do a video on that at some point or another. Missing data in general shouldn't just be thrown away. he says after he throws away some missing data without looking at it. There's many different sorts of missing data, and they all need to be handled differently, and there are entire books written on this topic. I'll do a 5-minute video at some point. M-sleep's a great example. Okay, so let's try referring to this. It won't quite work yet. Reference. Jeez. So, of course, it is going to be at tbl-msleep. But when we render it, it's not quite going to behave as intended. You get this question mark. It doesn't know what to do with the reference. So there's something missing here, and that's the table caption. So what we need is tbl-cap. Notice, by the way, we can also control the location of this caption. I won't do that right now, but if you want to mess with it, you can. I'll just caption it sleepy time. Oh, and before I look at it, let's go ahead and remove the echo so you don't have to look at my code anymore. You've already seen it a couple times, right? All right, so there it is. Table 1, sleepy time, reference table 1, all the great stuff that we had before. It's clickable and so on. Lovely. Great. So the next thing that we should talk about are callouts. So a callout is one of those cool boxes that you'll see where it's like warning, note, something like that. We get one of those using a fence. This is Quarto's native div. So we put at least 3 colons, and then at the end we close it up with the same number. Technically you can just close it up always with 3, but I don't recommend that. And then in a brace you say sort of what's going on inside the fence. And so in here you can kind of set parameters for the environment that you have in here and say something different is going on in here, like columns or a callout box. So how about callout-note? And inside I'll put in check out this note with an exclamation point. And I'll render that so you can remember what a callout box looks like, as well as me making sure I did it right, which I did. Great. So, if you've read any kind of R stuff online, you would have seen boxes like this. There's not just notes again, there's warnings and other things. I need to label it now. So inside that brace, I put a hashtag. And then the abbreviation is different depending on the kind of call out, because notes are going to get numbered different than warnings and other things. So the abbreviation here is NTE, and I'll just label this my note. So I always mess up because it's callout-NOTE, but then #NTE. They try and keep those abbreviations to just 3 letters here. So, watch out for that. And then let's get the reference. So at NTE -my note. And that should look all right. There it is. So same stuff as always. One of the most common references I have to do is to an equation. And this is one of the last things I want to show you. So, I'm doing some math. And so sometimes I need to put actual equations, and these get numbered. And I'll say things like according to equation 4 or whatever. So to get an equation, I'll use some LaTeX. So E equals mc squared, for instance. The $$ is going to put me into math mode, and in particular into display math mode, so things will be centered and a little bit larger than they would be if they were inline. I have a whole vid on typesetting mathematical stuff in Quarto, in other words, LaTeX for R users. I'll throw a link to that up top. So if I just render this right now, I'll get that equation. It's going to look nice, but what I'd like is to have it numbered. So like this is equation 1, and then I can refer to equation 1 afterwards. So it's just what you'd expect. In braces, I put a hashtag with an abbreviation, prefix, EQ, and how about just rel for relativity? And then let's put in my reference. So it should be at EQ-rel. And there it is, equation 1. Again, the appearance of equation 1 is customizable. You can change that however you want. Again, numbered separately from notes and so on. So that's a logical default behavior. You can also do references to a theorem environment, a proposition definition environment. I decided not to show that right now because it gets probably a little bit more specialized than most people need. If you're another mathematician that needs to do that kind of stuff, a quick Google search will get you there. If you understand the other stuff I've shown you today, the learning curve on that will be very short. The last thing I do want to show, though, which I think is actually really useful, is sections. So, we talked about this plot earlier. Now I might want to refer back to the section where I talked about it. So, like, in section 1, we did an image. So, what I want to do is to label this whole section up here. So, I'll put a brace and a hash, and then sec dash, and then the name of it. So, how about sec im? And then down here, I can put my reference to @sec-im. Now, this is going to render, but it's not quite going to feel right once we look at it. So let's do that. Refer to section 1. But if we go up here, there's not actually a section 1. And the reason is that we're not numbering our sections. Quarto isn't doing that by default. So while images is the first section, it's not labeled that way. So this is a change we need to make to our YAML header. So up here somewhere, I will put number dash sections, and I'll make it true. And that should look a little bit more like what we want. So 1 images, 2 plots, reference to section 1 is just what I like. So as I wrap up, I think that I also just want to really quickly convert to a different format just to illustrate how nice Quarto is in this way. I'm going to swap over to Reveal.js, although I could have done PDF or whatever. Reveal.js is an HTML slideshow, so it's going to be fundamentally different looking, even though I'm using the exact same document except for this one word. So cross-references by Andrew Gard. That's the title slide made by the YAML. And then whenever I have one of these double hashes, I get a new slide. So the thing I want to point out here is that the references are formatting exactly like they did before. So there's not any difference changing from my references in an HTML document to Reveal.js to PDF. Except insofar as that some of those documents will have different behavior. So here they're clickable, for instance, or in HTML they're clickable. Okay, so that should be more than enough to get you started doing cross-references in Quarto. I think it's a wonderfully intuitive but also powerful system. Enjoy.